Here we are, week 166. So I am going to feed the fish, I think, before I sit and talk, just so they calm down a bit. Let me just dump some here. Right, so main event for this week was I had a flood in the sump room, so the room downstairs behind me. I came in Sunday morning and the whole sort of floor had, I mean, it wasn't a load, but it was about 5 mil layer of water across it, all sort of milky white looking. So I mean, it's always a worry when you come in and you just see loads of water where it shouldn't be. So the first thing is, oh my God, is the tank seal gone, or you got a major bit of pipe that's split or opened up? So I did a taste test. It wasn't salt water, so that narrows it down greatly. So I looked at the RO unit to see whether the seal had gone on one of them chambers. I'd left the valve open. So it took me a while, and then I noticed that my long outlet pipe from my from my Kalk stirrer was all caked up. So normally about once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, I just sort of manipulate the end of that tube because it goes like a thick paste in there. So I'll just kind of manipulate it, give it a little wash out in the sump to make sure it's free, but obviously I've got to do it. And it clogged. So I noticed it was clogged, but what I couldn't work out is where the water was coming from, because obviously the pipe's about 2 meters long. I think it's 12 mil, just soft piping, clear tubing. And then I noticed that the Kalk stirrer had a kind of a dribble down the side of it. And then I remembered when I bought it, it's got a very small, well, look, you look there, there's a picture of it. So it's like I don't know what that, like a 2 mil hole drilled in. And at the time when you buy it, never used one before, and I thought, weird, but they put a hole in it, because everyone tells you to keep it sealed so the air doesn't get in there, and you get that CO2 forming, which reduces the efficacy of the Kalk. So I was like, a bit weird, they've got a hole in there then, so the air can get in there. Now I know why. So obviously that's an overflow hole, but it dribbled down the outside of the Kalk reactor, dribbled around the back of the base, and then down the back of my big RO tub that I've got now, and then trickled along to the floor, obviously to the lowest point, and then slowly filled up the room down there. So I guess it had probably happened for most of the night. So I knew something was up, because when I got up in the morning, I checked my apex, my pH was below 8, which is, well, it doesn't happen. So I was like, oh, what's this? So I knew something was going to be up, I just wasn't sure what. Yeah, so that was it. So I took that whole pipe off and just cleaned it all out in the sink, got all the Kalk out of it. And hopefully that will be fine now for the next, well, I don't think I've ever actually cleaned it since I've had the Kalk running, so it must be a year and a half, maybe longer. Yeah, so that was that. So that was a Sunday morning treat. So 6 rolls of kitchen roll I went through, mopping all that up, and it's still a little bit damp down there now, to be honest, but it will go eventually. So I've also mixed up a new batch of sodium hydroxide, calcium and magnesium, because the tank has suddenly gone through a phase of wanting magnesium. So I was dosing 400 ml a day for about a week, maybe longer, week and a half. And you have to dose a lot to get that to come up. So it's now sitting at, I think it was 1370, I think it was 1377 to be precise. So I just like it above 1350 really, is kind of where I like it, but it got down to 1290 or something. So yeah, so I did that. So it does that every now and then. Every few months I have to just dose a load of magnesium in there. I don't really know what sucks it up. I know Monty's like it, but yeah. And now I'll swap back because my calcium's a little bit, just showing a little bit low. So I'm just dosing 100 ml of that a day. Yeah, so I mix up sodium hydroxide, mix up magnesium, and I mix up calcium. So I'm dosing those. I don't dose a lot of that sodium hydroxide, about 70 ml a day. But I don't like the dosing containers to get too low, just because I forget and I don't want them to run dry. So it's just easy. I have to mix that sodium hydroxide up outside because it's, one, it's exothermic, so the pot gets really hot, and two, you do not want to breathe that in once you've mixed it, because it just gives off. It makes you catch what burns. Actually, it's just not nice. I just don't want to do it. I've got a full, like a respirator face mask, but occasionally I take it off too quick, and I get a slight breath of air. Yeah, so it's not good. So I did 3 litres of that. Yeah, I think that's it. So what else have I done? So I've also added some, I'll just give the rest of that food to them. Corals, yes, I've added some coral. So I've got a box of corals, which I've made a separate video on, just to show unpacking and the dips that I use to dip them. I mean, it's not a particularly exciting video, but anyway, it's there if you want to have a look at it. I got the corals from a guy I've met online. He's based in Scotland, up in Kilmarnock, I think it is. And he sent me some corals, which is very nice of him. So he sent me 17. 15 of them are very happy, and the other 2 are very unhappy. He didn't make it, but I don't think that's that bad actually. Out of 17 corals, 15 of them look good. But the tank is, yeah, I think it's back on track after the blip it had during my holiday. The only thing which is taking its time to come back is the Setosa, really. But it still needs to slowly grow back over the edge that strips. It's weird because it's kind of wrapping around the side of a rock, so the 2 bits that are wrapped around are growing really well, but the bit that's stripped, it just seems to be very slow to grow back. But maybe that's just me being impatient, because my eye is always drawn to the bleach bit, and it's just annoying. I can't really do anything with it. It's not like I can break it off or anything. So I'll just have to be patient and wait for it to grow back, really. But yeah, so the rest of the coral's looking good. Tank seems pretty good. I'm still trying to work out why my Duncans spend months retracted, and then like now they're starting to come back out again. And then I always think, what have I done? What have I done that could have made them come out? And the answer is always the same. I don't think I've done anything. So, I mean, the only thing I can think of, which it could be coincidence or possibly it could be connected, is that obviously when the Kalk overflowed, none of it went in the tank that night. So obviously the tank didn't get any RO water or obviously any Kalk in the tank. And then the next day, I did notice that the Duncans were out. Is that a Duncan? Yeah, it's a Duncan, isn't it? Can't remember what it is now. Yeah, it's a Duncan, isn't it? Yeah, so I have to see what it is. Yeah, so that's it. So not a lot going on this week, other than a little bit of a minor flood. Still got old Dickie, the convict, hanging here. Still not dealt with that issue. So I've been busy with another project, which I'm going to make separate videos on for the SBS stuff. So I've done a fair bit on that really at the moment. And as regarding to the, can't see that. Can you see that? Oh, maybe you can. The sump, that. So I'm going to slightly revise it in the fact that rather than drag that tank up and set it up here, and also set this tank up for the coral spawning, I'm going to set the coral spawning tank up, and I'm going to put the corals that are down there and those couple of fish in this tank, and then I will plumb all that down there, get all this, and then I will decide what I'm going to do with the corals, whether I'm going to put them in there, whether I'm going to put them back in the tank, whether I'm going to get rid of them. I'll just decide. But I think it's just easier than cobbling together a sort of janky bit of plumbing just to run that tank for a while. So, and it also gives me not a reason, but just it will allow me to get all that up and running, ready with the lighting and everything that I need to do when I do want to use it for the coral spawning. Because I've never had one of those tanks before, so it's a little bit new to me. So I need to see how I get on with it. So I'll probably make a first video on that spawning tank sometime in the next couple of weeks, because I think I've progressed enough with it to, one, I've got an idea mentally what I want to do and how I'm going to do it, and just go through that process basically. So yeah, I think that is it. I can't think of anything else. Oh no, I was going to mention actually, I was sitting here the other day and a bumblebee came in, so he's come up from the garden, got in, and they always find these lights very attractive, so it bumps along all the lights, and then it just bumped on one of the lights and dropped onto the mesh, and the second it hit the mesh, my Lennardi wrasse just smashed into the net, dragged it through. I mean, they're quite small holes, and it just dragged it through the net and just promptly ripped it apart and ate it while I was sitting there watching. And I was just like, wow, that is a proper predator fish. Yeah, I mean, it was so quick. So it must have seen that bee on that light from being in the tank. And the second it hit the mesh, it just immediately just dragged it through and ate it. So yeah, I've never seen that before. And it does make, because sometimes when I clean my filter or my sump out, I notice that the filter roll's got like legs and wings of insects on it. And I always wondered why there was no bodies ever. So I can only imagine that she eats any insect that gets anywhere near that mesh. Yeah, I mean, she's always hunting. So pretty sure she's eating the shrimps as well, to be honest. I'm pretty sure she eats the snails if they ever get turned over and exposed. Because I've noticed the Trocus snail numbers have dwindled quite a lot since she's been in there. But, you know, she's a lovely fish, so she'll get away with it. Yeah, so I think that is all I've done this week, really. Can't think of anything else. Yeah. Yeah, so that's it. So short and sweet this week. So I will see you on the next one.